Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Sang, and today I am eating at Samurai Noodles on I-10 and Durham. Today we have my friend Kinjo. He's Japanese and he loves eating the ramen here. And then later on we're going to talk to the owner Thomas as well to talk about his ramen and how it's made. Stay tuned in the video. Thanks. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'm Thomas, and I came into ramen in a very interesting way. I used to work for an oil field company for many years, and I got really tired after 18 years of oil field. And part of the oil field business that I had was to travel a lot to Seattle. And when I was traveling a lot to Seattle, one day I actually looked up Best Ramen Seattle, and I saw a shop called Samurai Noodle. And so I went there to eat, and it's a very funny story. When I went there to eat, I walked into the shop and I saw that the people working there were not Asian or not Japanese. And I thought, well, I already paid for the $12 parking Seattle rates. Let's just enjoy some ramen before I go back to the airport. Sat down and ordered a bowl that is, in our restaurant, it's called a tampopo. And I ate it, and I basically had to pause for a second, and I'm like, wow, this is interesting. This is one of the most authentic, I won't say authentic, I would say tasty noodles that I've tasted. I have no reference for authentic at that point. So it was just really, really tasty. The noodles had great bite. When I put it in my mouth and I chewed down on it, it had a snap, and I was really blown away. And so I thought to myself, maybe I was just hungry, and chalked it up as that. And then I left, and 2 months later I came back and I'm like, let's stop at shop again. And we went there and I ordered a different dish called the shoyu tonkotsu. And again, it was great. And again, I looked around and there was no Asians working there, and it was very interesting to me. And at that point, I was at a decision point in my life that I wanted to do a career change. And I didn't know what I really wanted to do. And I remembered that as part of my oil field days where I was stationed in Paris, France for about 5 years, and I liked the way the waiters and the people in France worked, and they actually cared about the food, and they talked a lot about food, and I had reminded myself that I had told myself then if I could get into the food industry, I'd try. I was thinking about that, and my wife said to me, hey, why don't you go call the guy at Samurai, since you talk a lot about their restaurant, and try it. And so I went there. We got online at my wife's persistence. I emailed them, and a few months later, Mr. Ryo Izawa, the owner of Samurai Noodle, responded. We got to talking. I took a trip to Seattle. I looked at his operations, and I realized that this guy was really passionate about teaching people how to speak ramen or be fluent in ramen. And as funny as that sounds, he had a passion for the food, that when you look at the food and you talk about the food, you understand everything about the food, how it's made and where it comes from, why it's made a certain way, why it tastes that way. And I was really sold by this guy. And the reason I kept bringing up the fact that when I walked into the restaurants, there were not Asians working in it at that point, was I was saying that maybe I can learn, because I'm not Japanese, and if he can teach them and the food tastes good, I felt that there was a great opportunity to share this with Houston. So we got to talking, and it was Mr. Izawa is a real old school Mr. Miyagi karate kind of guy. He's not as old as Mr. Miyagi, but he's old. Like we got to talking, and he basically said, we'll see. Let's see if you have what it takes to do a shop.
What year was this?
This was 2012. Yep, 2012. So he says, come on over if you want to do this business. Come on over, work in the shop for a while, and we'll see. So at that point, 18 years in oil field, I was like, fine. Quit my job. We rented a little basement in Seattle, took my family to Seattle. Me and my wife went to work, and basically I say Mr. Miyagi is because he wouldn't teach me ramen at all. For the first few weeks, I was just doing nothing but cutting green onions.
Your wife worked there too?
Sorry?
Your wife worked there too?
My wife was there as a support crew, just in case someone other than me has the knowledge. So we both worked in the restaurant. Mr. Izawa had a couple of restaurants, locations. So my wife worked at one, I worked at one. Oh, I guess it's kind of like co-training to keep the information in not try to preserve the information, but at least there's two of us. If we should be successful in starting a business, there is two people with the knowledge, and we can help each other, But that's a good question. Yes, she learned on her own. She was trained on the other restaurants, on the menu, how to speak the different types of stuff. But we went to over there and we learned, and we went from cutting green onions to cutting carrots. Had to learn how to hold a knife all over again and understand that if you hold a knife like you're at home in the kitchen, you don't have the power and the stroke to cut through carrots, meat, chicken, and all that stuff, you know. So we had to learn all that, and from there we went to pot cleaning, scrubbing down tonkotsu pots every night. And soon after that, went on the cook line to understand the pressure of making ramen. You know, for him, a ramen chef has to be able to make up to 6 bowls at the same time. A lot of things played into memory, meaning that when you lay out your ramen bowls, you read the tickets all one shot. You have to pre-plan your battle plan of how you're going to make all 6, because they're all 6 different. Not only are they different, Samurai is one of the only restaurants that allow people to Starbucks their ramen, you know, add this, take that away, less spicy this and all. So you have to plan all that. We have multiple types of noodles, so we have to be able to learn how to drop all the noodles in the hot water, pick it up and put it back in the respective bowls in the different types of soup bases. And so that training went on for a couple of months, and at some point he asked me, so you think you're ready? And I'm like, no. And his answer to me is like, I don't think you are either. And I'm like, okay. But he says that, but I think you have the heart to try. So we talked about it. Samurai is not a franchise. So we took the next year after the training to look for locations and spot, and we found the current spot here. And on opening day, Mr. Izawa sent his team over and to help us for the first 3 weeks, to help me train the other crew and to make sure that I, you know, remembered everything that I was doing. And I think Mr. Izawa and I had a good relationship. I love the job. I love the ramen. I love speaking ramen, like Mr. Izawa says. And that's technically how we ever got into it, if that even makes sense. Yeah.
What year did you open?
We opened in late 2013, early 2014. We opened, but we had the build out, the training and all. So I would say 2014, yeah. 2014 was there. We signed the papers in 2013, we opened in 2014. Yeah.
So can you talk more about your restaurant, about your food? What makes it special compared to other restaurants?
Well, what makes our ramen special is Mr. Izawa said, first of all, it's not a franchise. So we may carry the same names, but we actually only carry the same recipes. And a couple of things that we do is Mr. Izawa imports all the ingredients from his hometown in Tokyo, Japan, and he ships it over to Seattle. And from there, he ships it partial of that entire shipment to us to run. So we don't buy a lot of ingredients from the local suppliers, which is to make the soup base. That's number one. Number two, that makes us really different is we make our own noodles here. And the story behind that is Rio Izawa. Rio said that he's tried all the noodles here and it doesn't have that bite that he wants, that he gets every time he eats ramen in Japan. We have all these pre-made noodles. It looks like it, but it does not have that bite. And so one makes it special is we make our own ramen. So one, we make our own soup base with ingredients we take from Japan. Two, we make our own noodles. Three, many other places may or may not do it, but we have to go select our own pork bellies, and we bring it here, we hand tie it, cook it, freeze it, untie, sear it, and then after that store it away for flavor to absorb. And the last one is the eggs. You know, we have a 4 or 5 day process to make the eggs, which is rather costly because we use the soup base made from the ingredients we import from Japan. And a lot of that is just to flavor that egg. I think that makes us different, and we are also a traditional ramen shop with the open kitchen where our customers can come and see the cooking done in process, the cooks at work. We don't have an assembly line, we actually have a cook line where the chef has to be able to, as I said before, make all the ramen, up to 6 ramens in a row, run appetizers at the same time, and memorize what goes into each ramen and how a customer wants each ramen. One other thing is why we make our own noodles. It is very unknown to a lot of people is that noodles have many ways of being cooked, from super hard, meaning nice crunchy bite, to super soft. So there's soft, medium, regular, firm, extra firm, and super firm. And all of these does not mean that the noodles are not cooked. It's just a matter of bite. And you can only achieve that if you make your own ramen. If you take store-bought ramen or factory-made ones, you have to have a minimum cooking time, or else it's very floury and doughy inside. Also, our ramen are made with pure wheat. We do not have starches or fillers in there to make a noodle. When you look at our noodles and when you eat the noodles and you lift it and you hold it against light, you will actually see that it's very dense and not translucent. Doesn't light up like an LED strip. You know, it's almost like a light blocker, and you can feel it in the weight when you hold it in your chopsticks. So these are a couple of things that make us different from many other shops.
Can I ask Kenjo a few questions?
Sure.
So how long have you been eating here, and what are your favorite ramens eating here?
Okay, so ever since he opened this place, I've been eating here, non-stop.
So 2014?
Non-stop, yeah. And then the thing is, my favorite ramen in general, so they have shoyu soup, tonkotsu soup, and those are two base, and the vegetable soup. And my favorite would be definitely shoyu. And so I have this, I told many of my friends, if I go to the ramen shop first time, I will always order shoyu ramen. That's my benchmark. That's how I decide, okay, you know, if this ramen shop is okay or not okay right away by shoyu ramen, I can tell. So, and then here, I've eaten shoyu, tonkotsu, vegetable, you know, and the miso. That's, you know, they can put the miso in chicken broth or tonkotsu broth, either way. So I tried all of that, and I would have to say, if I have to pick one dish at this location, I would say tampopo shoyu ramen. That is.
So are the ramens here, the quality just as good as in Japan?
Well, it's better than some Japanese ramen shops. So you know, the ramen shops, generally speaking, good in Japan, of course, as you can imagine. But not all ramen shops make good ramen. You know, sometimes you get the crappy ones. But so, from that, you know, viewpoint, I would have to say this ramen shop is above average in Japan. If you put this one right here, you know, there in Japan somewhere, and I would say it will be still above average. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Thomas, do y'all ever create new dishes, or do you just keep with traditional dishes?
We try to keep with traditional dishes. One of the things that I can say that we are not as strong with is trying to curate new dishes. But that's also because, you know, Mr. Izawa has his own recipes from his hometowns, and we try to stay away from making things because it's trendy. Like, we don't do brisket ramens, we don't do beef ramens, just because I think Mr. Izawa's viewpoint on this is like, we make what we know. Yeah, I mean, if you want brisket ramen, there are other restaurants that you can go for that. We're not trying to compete with brisket ramen because I think that we want to try to promote the original ramens and traditional ramens. And the funny story is no traditional ramen is ever spicy in Japan, but we had to take some time to learn the spices, and Mr. Izawa spent a lot of time learning how to make spiciness with Korean ramen, Korean chilies, and also Chinese chilies. But I guess I guess long answer to your question is we try to stick with the tradition. We try to make variations based on the traditional ramens we have, but typically we never really step out of the box for now.
Well, thank you for your time. Thank you for interviewing with me. Hopefully we can work together again in the future.
Sure, absolutely.
Thank you.